Good morning. Today's scenario involves a teacher being reluctant in participating in the PLC process. Up to this point, the administrator has done as much as he could to introduce PLC. They have had training, they have had research-based information given to the teachers. They have visited other campus. They have come up with the mission together. So at this time, everything looks like things were moving along. Then the English team comes in and speaks with the principal, and that there is a teacher that is reluctant to participate in PLC. My thoughts on this is the very first observation that I make is through being the first time that PLC is implemented in the school, as a principal, I would have to make a huge effort to be at every single PLC meeting. This is important because if PLC has never been in the school before, then I need to be that guide that guides the teachers as through the PLC process. I think that is something that's very important. So that is my first observation, that as a principal, I need to attend these PLC meetings, especially if it is the first time that PLC is being put in place in this campus. As then the next process would be, after having the meeting with the teachers that brought this concern, I would need to speak with this teacher individually, and I would ask for the teacher to come, and the first thing that I would explain is that his team has some concerns about not being, and that they were okay with him not participating in PLC. And I would explain that while the team is okay with the teacher not participating in PLC, that's not our school's objective. That's not our goal. The goal is for the entire staff to participate in the PLC process. During this conversation, I would have to set clear expectations of what is the school's vision, in the PLC, and that as a school, we're moving forward with this vision, that it is important. I also would recognize right off the back, right after I set the expectations of the school, that this teacher has a lot of great qualities, and that this is why we want PLC. And I would recognize all the accomplishments that this teacher has had. Maybe it was scores, maybe it's lesson plans, maybe it's classroom management, maybe it's the culture he has in his classroom. There's so many things that this teacher can bring to the table, and I would list them all, and I would have these ready before the meeting, and I would tell him, well, on this date, your lesson was absolutely amazing, and you brought this and this and this. Your classroom management, the way that you run the classroom, the way you handle discipline. I would emphasize all the great qualities that this teacher has, and that the rest of the team would love to learn from that. And just the same way that he can bring to the table, that's the same way that he can, if he's open, he can learn from others. That it's a great team, and that together the learning process is going to be amazing. having shared what all the great qualities that he can bring to the table, I would recognize that up to this point, he has all those great qualities, and he has worked in isolation, and it has worked for him. And so now it'd be a great opportunity for him to share his tips, and he has a lot to bring to the table. I would also have an open dialogue with the teacher. So after I present my clear expectations on for PLC on our campus, the second step is I would share with him all his great qualities that I think that he can bring to the table. Then I would open the dialogue. I would ask, what is it about PLC that doesn't interest you? What about the process? Is it, that the teacher is not willing to partake in? What part of the process? Because this is new. This is something that's beginning. So I would like this feedback, because maybe it's not just you the way he explained it, that there are others that don't want to say anything. Well, let's learn about this. So I would want to have that open communication, and let's find out. Maybe it's things that I have control of, like the timing of the PLCs. Maybe as an administrator, find time throughout the day to have PLCs. Maybe finding time throughout the day is too hard for teachers. So I would want to know, what are the little details that are making PLC so be this unattainable for this teacher. I would listen to his concerns. I would see, how can I help? How can I can come in, because and even in this conversation, I would say, this is new for our campus, so let's work together to move forward. Maybe it's certain resources that the teacher needs. Maybe it's visiting other schools and talking to other teachers. It's like, what if we went out and found a group of teachers that at the beginning were reluctant, and then now they're part of the PLC process. Let's talk to them and let's find out, are we feeling the same way? Are you feeling the same way? What happened that made you stick through the whole process? And is the outcome worth this work that we're putting in? I would also, the next step, and throughout this conversation, I would understand the teacher, and I would make that very clear in our conversation, that I understand him, that this is new, and sometimes new can be very uncomfortable. Usually teachers, and I will admit I was one of those teachers that I liked my little kingdom and my classroom, and I ran it a certain way, and my lesson plans were a certain way, and my assessments were a certain way, and I just had complete control over that. And being part of the PLC process is a little scary. It can be very vulnerable, where you're opening up, and maybe that's a little intimidating to some people. So throughout our right after he addresses his concerns, and I have tried to, work through the problems that he brought up, I would say, well, I understand this is a new process in our school, but I do see the value in taking time for doing PLC. And I would ask him, don't we owe it to our students? Don't we owe it to our students to, come up with new strategies, come up with new lesson plans and sharing your knowledge with the teachers that don't have that in their toolbox. Don't we owe it to all our students to have a great learning community? I think this is important because we have new teachers that that don't have those tools in their box. We have teachers that maybe have been teaching 3 to 5 years and they still don't have those toolbox. They're still just struggling. This is that opportunity. And of learning from each other, and being part of a team is the best thing, because you know your team. So and that's something that's very important to bring up, that this is a team. This is, it's the English team that's trying to move forward, not English 1A from second period. It is English, the whole English department as a whole. So it is 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. What is our goal? What is our vision? Well, our vision is more vertical than just one grade level, one subject. So while I understand that this is new, that this is not something that the school has done before, I find a lot of value in sticking through this process because there is so much to learn. Towards the end of the meeting, if there's any pushback or conflict that I see that is about to arise, even though I have tried to understand the teacher, I have tried to communicate what is the next process, what is the vision, even though I've tried to I would take his concerns, write them down, and let's try to work something out. If he's still reluctant, if he is still not willing to participate in the PLC process, and he says, nope, this isn't for me, this is not what I signed up for, I would say I understand and acknowledge your concerns, but at this time, as a school, we are moving forward with the PLC process. And I hope you can share your knowledge with your team. This is where I would then have to refer to some facts, data. The state is not looking for just pass or fail anymore. The state is looking for improvement. So we're not looking at just, oh, this student passed. We're looking at growth. So if we are creating our common assessments, if we are creating our lesson plans with this vision in mind, I think we can move forward. So I would simply share the data. Our school's data shows that we need to have the students grow from each year, and that is not done in isolation. While your class might be great, the other English class might be struggling. So as a school, that is what we do. As teachers, that is what we do. We want all of our students to be successful. We want all our students to grow. And the only way that that can happen is that if we are planning vertically, we are showing each other's, creating common assessments. And this can only be done as a team. It cannot be done as in isolation. Something that's very important is that I believe I would start with the clear expectations of that we have as a school with PLC, and then I would end the meeting with the clear expectations of moving forward with PLC. And once we've talked about his concerns, we've talked about the goals, we've talked about research, we've talked about the research that was presented at the beginning of the year, we've talked about how I can meet him in the middle, we've talked about timing, we've talked about everything. I've listened to what he had to say. I would end our meeting the same way we start our meeting. I would start it with, these are our expectations as our school moving forward with PLC. I would also end the meeting with, I hope you are open to be part of our PLC, but it is important that you know that it is an expectation that you participate in that you are in our PLCs, and the expectation is that the school is moving forward with the PLC program. I would, because this is an expectation of the school, no, you may not opt out of being part of the PLC process, and it is important for every teacher to be part of the PLC process. If then it's not a team, and we would appreciate for you to be part of that team, because I believe and I have that you have a lot of great ideas. You have a lot of things that you can share, but in moving forward, this is what the school is doing. I think it's important that if there was no convincing of the teacher that that the expectations need to be said clearly by the principal, so the teacher understands. Because once we have one teacher that says, well, I don't have to participate, and the principal says, fine, he doesn't have to participate, it starts a domino effect, and the other teacher's not going to want to participate, and that other teacher's not going to participate, and you're going to have all these, then the whole learning community starts to shut down. It is very important.
Students that have Monday morning